I never imagined that doing the right thing would cost me everything. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Revenge with Jason. To all our viewers across America, Europe, Asia, and beyond, thank you for being part of our worldwide community. We hope you enjoy today's story. So let's dive in. My name is Daniel Reed, 34, a senior safety engineer at Grayson Industries, one of the biggest manufacturing firms in Chicago. I've worked here for 8 years. I've stayed overtime, missed birthdays, skipped vacations, all for a company I believed in. But none of that mattered the day Ethan Cole walked in. He was young, 38, sharp-suited, cold eyes, and a resume everyone seemed obsessed with. The board appointed him CEO 2 weeks ago after Mr. Grayson's sudden retirement. Rumors were already circling about cost-cutting, layoffs, and faster production cycles. But I didn't think he'd come for me. The moment that changed my life started in a boardroom full of men in ties pretending to care. I was presenting my findings, an urgent report that flagged a flaw in the new machine design. The cooling valves weren't sealed properly. It could cause an explosion under high pressure. I had seen a similar incident 3 years ago. 3 men died. I wasn't going to let it happen again. But Ethan? He leaned back, arms crossed, a smug smile dancing on his lips. "Your concerns are overblown and costly," he said loudly, cutting me off. "We need people who prioritize efficiency, not fear." The room fell silent. I could feel my heart thudding. I wanted to fight back, tell him what he was risking. But something in his expression told me it wouldn't matter. His mind was made up. "I think we're done here," he added, not looking at me. I packed my laptop in silence. Nobody spoke. Not even Greg, the guy who used to grab lunch with me every Friday. I walked past the receptionist. She looked away. My access card was deactivated before I even reached the parking lot. No farewell, no dignity, just gone. But what Ethan didn't know was that I wasn't going to stay silent. I had backups, files, photos, internal messages, and I knew something he didn't. There was another death. A plant worker named Luis Alvarez, 27. The cause had been ruled an accident, but I had proof it wasn't. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a cheap motel with my USB drive and a bottle of water. My hands were still shaking. I replayed his voice in my head over and over. "Your concerns are overblown." He was hiding something, and I was going to find out what. But not just for me, for Luis, and everyone still working under those deadly machines. Before you go further, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Revenge with Jason for more intense emotional stories that hit where it hurts. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My phone buzzed with a message from Maya, Luis's sister. I hadn't spoken to her since the accident. She had been grieving, confused, angry at everyone and everything. I texted her one line, "I think I know what really happened to your brother." She called back in seconds. "I knew it," her voice cracked. "They said he was careless, but he was always careful. Always." "I have his inspection logs," I whispered. "He flagged the same valve issue I just did, a week before he died." Silence. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You bring me proof, Daniel, and I'll help you burn that company to the ground." I met her the next evening at a rundown diner near the industrial district. She looked tired, thinner, a quiet storm behind her eyes. She slid an envelope across the table. Photos of Luis's bruises, a copy of his official report, and a scribbled note that read, "They won't fix it. They just want silence." I showed her my data. It matched. And then, like fate pulling strings, she said, "There's one more thing. Luis had a friend. He works at the plant's night shift. Name's Jared. He might know more." That same night, we drove together to the outskirts of the plant where Jared agreed to meet us. He was jittery, looking over his shoulder like he was being followed. He didn't even let us record the conversation. "They paid me to keep quiet," he admitted. "Luis found something bigger, not just the valve. He was tracing a false supply report, machines labeled safe that were never inspected." Ethan knew. So did the board. My chest tightened. It wasn't negligence. It was a cover-up. I didn't know how deep it went yet, but now it wasn't just about a firing or a faulty machine. It was about murder, money, and power, and Ethan was sitting right at the top of it all, wearing his perfect suit and perfect smile, pretending none of it existed. I had enough for a report, but it wasn't enough to take him down. We needed more. So I did something I never thought I would. I reached out to someone who hated me, Amelia Gray, the former executive assistant to the old CEO. She'd been demoted the day Ethan arrived, and I stood there frozen. What we had wasn't just evidence of past crimes, it was a warning of what was coming next. If we didn't stop him now, this would turn into a disaster on a national scale. I called Amelia. "We're not going to the media," she said immediately. I blinked. "Why?" "Because we don't just want to expose him," she said. "We want to destroy him." It all came down to one night. Amelia had a plan, risky but brilliant. With the data Emily provided, plus our timeline, fake reports, Luis's inspection logs, and Amelia's internal memos, we had enough to crush Ethan's empire. But instead of going to the media or police right away, we chose something bigger. Grayson Industries' annual shareholders conference was only 2 days away. Ethan would be speaking live. Broadcasted to investors, executives, and news outlets nationwide. That was our stage, and we were going to hijack it. Using Amelia's old credentials and Emily's access codes, we slipped into the system through a back door. Jared helped remotely from a burner laptop. He was shaking, but determined. We prepared a 3-minute video. Inspection fraud, internal emails, voice memos, images of the faulty machines, and Luis's original report, all stitched together with a voiceover Amelia recorded. It ended with Ethan's words. "We're not halting production over one nervous engineer's whining." And then, the names of 3 workers who died under his leadership. We scheduled the video to play midway through Ethan's keynote address, right when he would be boasting about quarterly growth and efficiency metrics. The night before the event, I couldn't sleep. I thought about Luis, about Maya, Amelia, even Emily, all the people who had risked everything. I thought about the silence of that boardroom, the cold stare Ethan gave me before tossing me aside like I didn't matter. He'd built his kingdom on the backs of the dead. It was time to bury it. At exactly 10:14 a.m., just as Ethan began talking about Grayson's bright, streamlined future, the screens behind him glitched, the lights dimmed, and our video began to play. Gasps echoed through the room. Cameras kept rolling. Ethan froze, eyes darting for the teleprompter, for control, but there was nothing he could do. Every screen in the hall, every live stream, every investor's device was playing the truth. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Then came shouting, phones ringing, board members storming out. Ethan tried to speak. "These claims are baseless, fabricated." But no one was listening anymore. 2 hours later, federal safety inspectors walked into the building. By nightfall, Ethan Cole was suspended, pending investigation. The board released a public statement. Stock prices nosedived. Media swarmed the story for days. And us? We stayed quiet. Watched from afar. Let the fire spread. 2 weeks later, I received an envelope at my motel door. No name, no return address. Inside was a photo of Ethan in handcuffs, and a note. "You weren't just right, Daniel. You were necessary." I sat there, staring at it, a bitter mix of relief, grief, and something I couldn't quite name. Justice never brought Luis back. But maybe it stopped the next one. And maybe, just maybe, it made people like Ethan realize they can't erase the voices of the dead, not when the living are willing to scream. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, shocked you, or made you think, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Revenge with Jason. Your support helps keep these real human stories alive. She didn't reply at first. Then 2 days later, I got an anonymous email. "Meet me at the old Grayson cabin, midnight, come alone." I stared at the message, unsure whether it was a trap or a chance. But I knew one thing. This wasn't over, and I wasn't backing down. The road to the old Grayson cabin was barely lit, swallowed by trees and silence. My hands gripped the wheel tighter with every mile. Maya had begged me not to go alone, but this This was the kind of mess you either fixed yourself or got buried in. I arrived at 11:57 p.m. The cabin was locked, abandoned for years after the former CEO's son drowned in the nearby lake. They said the place was cursed. That night, it felt like it. A light flicked on upstairs. I walked in slowly, my footsteps echoing on the creaky wooden floor. Then I saw her, Amelia, leaning against a wall, arms crossed, her red hair tied back, eyes sharp as ever. "You really showed up," she said quietly. "Most men don't. They talk about justice, then run when it gets dark." "I'm not most men," I said. She smiled bitterly. "Number your worst. You had power. You stayed quiet." I didn't argue. She was right. I had seen signs. And I ignored them. She walked to an old cabinet and pulled out a leather folder. "These are copies of internal memos. Ethan was bypassing safety reviews with fake signatures. He used my login for 2 of them. I almost got fired. That's why I left." I opened the folder and my blood ran cold. There were 6 fake inspections, all approved by names of people who had either been fired or were dead. And worse, there was a printed email from Ethan himself. "If anyone asks, it's already been signed off. We're not halting production over one nervous engineer's whining." He was talking about me. I stared at the paper. My name wasn't mentioned, but the date matched the day I filed my first report. Amelia lowered her voice. "Luis tried to blow the whistle. You were next. Ethan's not just trying to save money. He's silencing people. You were just easier to get rid of than kill." The silence that followed was thick, heavy. I suddenly felt how deep I'd sunk. This wasn't a company scandal anymore. This was criminal. And if I kept going, I wasn't just risking my job or my name. I was risking my life. I looked up at Amelia. "Why are you helping me now?" She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "Because my brother died in that plant 5 years ago, and I think Ethan had something to do with it too." The room spun. We weren't just chasing revenge anymore. We were unraveling a body count. And Ethan Cole? He was the man standing above all of it. We had to expose him. But if we did it wrong, we'd end up like Luis. Or worse. I didn't go home after the cabin. I couldn't. Instead, I stayed with Maya. She insisted, said it wasn't safe for me to be alone, not after everything we'd uncovered. And she was right. That night, a black SUV drove by her apartment 3 times. No plates, no lights. We didn't talk about it, but we both knew what it meant. The next morning, I sat with Amelia and Maya in her cramped kitchen, papers and flash drives spread across the table. We were building a timeline, gathering proof, connecting the fake inspections to actual injuries and deaths. Every piece made the picture darker. Then Amelia leaned forward. "We need someone inside, someone Ethan still trusts." That's when Maya said something I didn't expect. "What about Emily?" My stomach tightened. Emily was my ex. More than that, she was Ethan's executive coordinator now. Smart, sharp, cold. We ended badly a year ago after I caught her deleting an anonymous HR complaint about safety violations. She said it was protocol. I never believed her. "She won't help," I muttered. "She might," Maya pressed. "She's the only one close enough to Ethan to access his private server." Amelia looked at me. "Call her." It felt like swallowing glass, but I did. When Emily answered, her voice was the same, controlled, distant. But when I told her Luis's death wasn't an accident, there was a pause. Just long enough to hear the crack in her armor. She agreed to meet. We met at the old parking garage behind the Westgate Mall. Her choice. She got out of her car wearing sunglasses and a trench coat like she was in a bad spy movie, but the fear on her face was real. "I can't help you," she said. "They're watching everything, phones, emails, even my home." "You're in danger too," I said. "You know what he's done." She didn't deny it. Then, quietly, she slipped me a flash drive. "It's not everything, but it's enough to start a fire." I took it, knowing full well what that fire could burn down. Before she left, she whispered something that shook me. Luis wasn't the only one. Ethan's planning to phase in untested AI-controlled machinery next quarter. He's removing human oversight completely. If that goes live, people will die. She drove away.